I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. We normally do this Monday, where we recap the game, but given that the season is officially over, we figured we would do it now. It's also a bit more raw for us, so we'll see how this goes. I'm Amit. That is KDot. I'm going to skip the how are you doing because I know how you're doing, and you know how I'm doing. So we're going to go ahead and lay out the structure for this episode. We lost to the Cleveland Browns at home 24-10. It was a pretty convincing loss and the biggest game of our season. And so there's a lot of blame to be passed around. So we're going to talk about the blame, who we want to blame, who should be getting blamed, stuff like that. We're going to talk about the shit show that this is right now with the franchise. And we will conclude with stuff to look forward to. We have the comment mailbag as well. Yeah. K-Dot, let's just get into it. Your reaction to the loss and this debacle of a game.
Shit show, start to finish, man. I love how you said it was the biggest game of our season. We've played the biggest game of our season the entire month of December, each fucking week, and we can't get it done. And I remember saying on the last pod that if we didn't at least win a playoff game this season, then it was an absolute abject failure on the part of Ron Rivera and the coaching staff and the team as a whole. And we're here now. And we've been failing miserably and slowly for a minute now. And I think the way that this game itself played out, especially with the quarterback change, going from Taylor to Carson, which, look, I'm being the number one person to say that I was more than willing to make that switch. But when you do it with now zero room for error, you can't necessarily go back to Taylor or Sam Howell to see what the fuck works out when you had opportunity to maybe do that earlier on in the season, right? So now you have to live with the decision that you made. And throughout that game, even when you see him missing every fucking thing, the easiest things, you stick with it. Then it becomes more of, what the fuck do you even stand for? Because if Taylor played the game that he played against San Francisco, which looked light years ahead of the game that fucking Carson played, and you pull him to get your spark, and you see that there's no fucking spark happening, then you have the other guy sitting there that could potentially come back in and do the spark when you realize nothing fucking working and you choose not to do it. So, like, where's your consistency? It feels almost as though this game was more about proving some sort of fucking point than it was about anything about what it was that we needed to do to win the goddamn game. And that, to me, speaks to some issues really at large with the coaching staff and really at large with the organization as a whole. And what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah. And I want to touch on that. The what the fuck are you guys doing? This shit show, and we'll get to who's to blame and stuff like that. But we've talked about ego before with Ron Rivera, right? We wonder where Eric Flowers is, for example, right? Is he a free agent? Is he interested in football these days? Like, where is he? Because he has been good for this team in the past. Don't get him. Loyalty to a fault. Scott Turner, we'll get into that. Why? Based on what? Like, all these things that he has chosen Carson Wentz with the trade. And then today, to your point, if he's saying it's a spark, and he has 2 picks that quickly, what spark are we talking about? So at that point, don't you go, okay, it's not working. And I was wrong. But the thing is, you almost never see that, right? When we were talking at the very beginning of the season with Ron, it was a lot of deflecting. In fact, at one point, what's the difference between you and the other guys? Quarterback, while Carson was in. So, I mean, it is a for a guy who I believe comes from a military background and stuff like that, it is a tremendous lack of accountability at the head coaching position. So when I think shit show, unfortunately, I think about the guy in charge, and that is our head coach. And so I think first and foremost, we talked about it last week, who's going to get blamed if we lose, stuff like that. I mean, you got to first look at Ron. So let's talk about him. What are your thoughts? We'll get to the future in a moment, but in this game, aside from the Carson stuff, like what else do you think he did?
I can break down the whole fucking thing.
Please do.
Let's start defensively, because that's where the bigger issues were. Now, we knew going into this. Yeah, we knew. Yeah, the first. Well, here's the thing: Cleveland's not good, and they didn't play a good game.
They played a bad game. They had 3 points at halftime off 2 turnovers. I mean, yeah, and we were up. And we played a
Deshaun
really
Watson
bad
threw
half.
9 of 18 with 3 touchdowns. Amari Cooper has 3 catches in that game for over 100 fucking yards
and 2 touchdowns.
Nick Chubb was being Nick Chubb, and we knew that we were going to have to stop the run. And guess what we didn't do? Stop the fucking run the way we needed to. So especially that big chunk play that Nick Chubb got, and you knew that was only a matter of time. He's Nick fucking Chubb. So and here's the thing: we knew at least going into this game when we talked about it in the pre-show, if you're going to be missing Cam Curl, you're going to be missing Benjamin St. Juice. It's going to be a problem. And especially you look at early on in the game, you're also missing Jonathan Allen has to come out of the fucking game. It's going to be an issue. But even when John Allen was in the game, at least for the very start of the game, it didn't really do fucking much. Like the thing of it is that defensive line and the defense as a whole, as much as Jack Del Rio constantly gets credit for this, that, and the other, it's literally just the talent is what's getting them through. There's nothing happening with the scheme on the defense. There's no adjustments happening when it comes to the defense. You realize that Cam Curl's doing more of the defensive coordinating than Jack Del Rio's fucking doing, because he's the dude that's getting the guys on the assignments. You look at the plays to Amari Cooper, it's people that are out of position. That's what the fuck happens. If you don't have somebody on the field putting guys on position, then it doesn't fucking happen. And it happened more than once. The way they were beating us wasn't like there were different things happening. It was the same fucking thing over and over again. So you'd think, okay, if they're beating us, you go to the fuck, you have your guys on the sidelines, you look through on all those fucking Microsoft Surface tablets you got, and you say, hey, look out for this guy, look out for this, look out for that. And guess what we don't do? We don't fucking do it. We don't make those adjustments. They literally let the talent of these guys carry them. And when you look at that defense, when you look at the defensive line, right?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. I'm going to touch on that in a moment. Please continue. I just wanted to bookmark that. Go ahead. So
Daron Payne's having the season of a lifetime, especially when you're looking at the amount of sacks that he has, right? But here's what I'll tell you. In the way that defense is supposed to work as far as in that 4-3, Daron Payne shouldn't have that many fucking sacks, because you shouldn't be worried on pass rush all the fucking time. As much as he's doing what he needs to do to stunt, to do things on the defensive line to open up some of the D ends. How many fucking sacks do the D ends have on this fucking defense? Then if we're looking at where it is the linebackers are not in the right positions or not hitting the gaps the way they need to hit the gaps, what's happening with the coaching on the fucking defense? It's non-existent. And you see the shit is week after week after week. When are you making the adjustments? You don't fucking make the adjustments. And then what you do, you have Deshaun Watson has his fucking preseason comeback game against us. He has his fucking get-right game against us with a shitty stat line. Like, Cleveland might suck ass again next week. But guess what? They got that one thing. They got that one spark against fucking us. So that's defensively. What the fuck are you guys doing? So I blame Jack Del Rio. I blame everybody on the defensive staff. And then you know who I blame at the top of it? Ron Rivera. Why? Because you put everybody in position. And you know what else you're responsible for, Ron Rivera? The players that are on the team, the depth. When you have certain guys go down in the secondary, why don't we have other guys that can step up? Why don't we have other leaders on the defense that can take charge of putting guys where they need to be? It's because you didn't do what you need to do with depth. I saw Landon Collins return a fucking pick 6 of that. He looks good in his fucking playing with New York right now. And we were talking about it all fucking off season. Landon Collins looked like he was fucking coming on at the end of the season. What do you need? You need a dude that can play down in the box. You need a Buffalo hybrid kind of safety, right? And guess what happens? We don't fucking have it. You don't have a guy fast enough to cover the tight ends. You don't have a guy fast enough to QB spy. You don't have that. And you had it. And you let it walk. Why? Don't know. Ego, this, that, and the other. Who fucking knows? But it's on you. It's on you, Ron. It's on the front office. It's on the coaching staff.
Martin Mayhew, Marty Herney, these are all Well, Marty Herney in particular, I believe.
They're all Ron guys.
Connection. They're all Ron guys, right? And you talked about being carried by talent. Ron's been to a Super Bowl before. He was carried by a guy nicknamed Superman. Okay. Cam Newton in 2015 accounted for 45 touchdowns and 10 picks. And it was an unbelievable season from him. Okay, 15-1, and they were running through people, but it was Cam Newton. Their best wide receiver was Ted Ginn. So if you look at it from a roster construction standpoint, imagine if they had given him a better receiver, for example, right? Than Ted Ginn. He was doing all this with Ted fucking Ginn. Okay, like, and that is a bit disrespectful to it, fine, but you get it. If you were watching the league in the NFL, or if you were watching the NFL in 2015, that is a joke that he was able to have those numbers. Over 600 yards rushing and stuff like that. Outside of that, outside of having a Cam Newton at quarterback, what has Ron Rivera done? I mean, that is what we're looking at right now. And you talk about Landon Collins. We talk about Brandon Scherf. We have not replaced these guys. When you look at what a coach is supposed to do, it's to facilitate, it's to develop players. Where is the player development? What are we holding on to? Right? And so the shit show, as you had pointed out, and as I have pointed out, starts with Ron Rivera and effectively ends with him as well. Now, the defense, what upsets me is that we do this podcast twice a week. Yeah, we put in some prep. And I look at that offense, and the fact that we can just tell what needs to be done and it somehow doesn't get done is crazy. I recognize the number of carries Ryan Robinson had, but after Wentz threw the first pick, which was an underthrow, and a throw I was told he could make, that he'd be ready for, that he had learned from Taylor, they started, and I'm curious about what it looks like on all 22. Cleveland looked like we're going to play the run a lot more, because we don't think this guy is going to beat us. They were right. I'm very curious to see what this all 22 looks like, KDot. I really am, because I saw that it was much harder to run after that first pick.
I could tell you without seeing the all 22.
Go ahead.
Now, I can't wait to see the all 22 because I want to see exactly what Carson was looking at majority of these plays where,
sure.
Look, all right, so before I completely unload on Carson Wentz, who number one right here has been the guy saying that I wanted to see Carson again. I own the fuck out of that. Okay. I wanted to see Carson again. Now, albeit I wanted to see it a lot earlier than this, so we can make the proper adjustments. Because remember, I never guaranteed that he'd be great. I just wanted to see him again with the rest of the team. But here's the fatal flaw. Scott motherfucking Turner. Now, look, I've done everything I possibly can do to bend over backwards to give Scott Turner and his offensive scheme the benefit of doubt. And I try. And every once in a while, I look in to see the way that the offense itself is ran. I am a believer in the Eric Coryell standard in the West Coast offense. I'm a believer in that style. It's what Kyle Shanahan's running right now in San Francisco. Huge fan. It's even an offshoot, sort of what we just saw Cleveland do with Kevin Stefanski. An offshoot of it.
Who also runs a West Coast. Yep.
Runs a West Coast and more of the Eric Coryell style than the Bill Walsh guy. We'll get there. We'll get there, Amit. All right.
Go ahead.
So Scott, we were giving you credit that you had shit figured out when we were on that winning streak. When Taylor Heinicke wasn't lighting up the scoreboard, but we knew what we had to do as far as running the football and throwing the ball down the field to certain degrees. Now, everything I've ever said about Taylor Heinicke missing certain reads and all that all still stands completely firm. I have not changed my opinion on that.
It's fine.
But what I can absolutely say is that during this game, everything that we saw that Taylor was doing good on offense, or at least the offense was working, play action, move out, bootlegs, and you run the play from under center so you don't know what's coming. The pass has to be built off the run. That's the only way you can pass, is building off the run. When you look at this game, because I rewatched almost all of it, look at how many snaps Carson Wentz is playing in shotgun. Look at how many fucking snaps he's playing at shotgun where the play action is that stupid fucking soft bullshit where it looks like a draw for a quarter of a second. No one's buying it. And then you drop, and then you throw. It's like, no, you're not selling anything. Then on top of that, why the fuck is Jonathan Williams starting the game?
Something must be going on with Brian.
It has
Robinson to not be the first guy getting a carry.
But he's not the first guy to give, but you give him the rock 20-something fucking times.
24.
So what's happening? So, like,
right.
I don't understand. Like, I knew Gibson's going to be out, so there's going to be a bigger load, right? But then you also saw the person that took off the first kick return was what? Jarrett Patterson? Is he back? Who was that? So, like, what are we doing? What's the split? And why are we lining up in shotgun when you have Brian Robinson does the best when the ball's under center and the defense doesn't know the defense doesn't know. Is it play action to give it to Brian? Is it play action to give it to Brian? They didn't do any of that. They had how many rollouts did you see Carson fucking run? How many play actions did you see them run? It was non-existent. I don't consider play action the fake draw. I also don't consider play action to look right and then look left to throw the fucking screen. That's not fooling anyone on defense that you're selling run. And here's the thing. It didn't start in this game. He started doing this shit when you saw the second half of that Giants game, or no, the first half of the Giants game with Taylor, where they start getting away from it. And it's just snowballed. We started seeing in San Francisco, holy shit, it's coming together. And if you look at what worked in San Francisco, there's none of it this week. Not any of it this week.
Yeah. I'm going to start taking the gloves off because I feel like I'm trying to host and also, like, make sure points are being made and stuff like that. Dude has no fucking feel for the game.
None.
We talked about this. It's a completely rigid system. You've had many players, I've said this many times, you've had many ex-players within a Scott Turner system say, there's no adaptability to our skill sets. You just have to run what he says. I can't fathom, and this goes to fucking Ron again. I cannot fathom giving that person an offensive coordinator job that doesn't even think, what talent do I have around me? And based on your strengths, that is common sense. What do you do well? Let's put you in a position to do it. Ex-players have said he doesn't do it. So I don't understand how this guy has a job outside of Norv's dad.
Do you know what
Norv's my dad. Norv is my dad. That is it.
Do you know what's infuriating though?
Go ahead.
He did it. Like, that's the thing that I don't understand.
But it's because he has no feel, dude.
But that's the thing. It's like,
sometimes. It's the same thing with Carson. It just happens sometimes.
Right. But so, like, what we talked about being totally afraid of was that he was going to revert back to doing exactly what we were doing when Carson Wentz was starting at quarterback the first time around.
When the offense was anemic.
When the offense was anemic as shit. Back to that Chicago game. This was the least offensive production we've had since the Chicago game. And if you look at it, other than the run total, it's the same offense from back then. Like, everything that was working and the wins were in the column, right? The only reason I wanted to see Carson Wentz was to run the offense that Taylor Heinicke was fucking running when we were winning games.
Now, that being said, let's talk about the quarterback because we need to.
Oh, yeah, please.
Yeah, because here's the thing. He was brought in to be a spark. And to an extent, I think Ron should have pulled him after the second pick. It was
100%.
2 of 6 for 13 yards. And that was we talked about the arm talent. They did the little graphic where they're like, okay, Carson wins these things. Taylor wins these things. That second pick, it happened so fucking quickly that it literally was, he sparked Cleveland. You want to spark, he sparked the other team. We were playing against 2 quarterbacks. We were playing against Watson and we were playing against Wentz. That's basically what happened in a must-win game. And there were boos immediately. I was actually shocked how quickly the boos happened because the first pick, it sucked. Fine. But immediately, you could feel the tension and it was palpable. It was, okay, you're on a really tight leash. A lot of us, at least I don't think anybody's saying Taylor's the guy, but like, he didn't turn over that quickly. He would.
It's not even turnovers.
Play 3. Like, it literally was, the reads were wrong.
Right.
The
short
throws were off.
Down the ground.
The arm talent that he has, that's supposedly a strength. He possesses it. This is what I talk about with the mentals, though. Does he think he can do it? Because it doesn't look like he can. And if you have a broken player in terms of confidence, Do you know how terrifying that is in a league where things move that quickly? He looked like a deer in headlights at times. Like, even when there were moments where there were no pressure, he'd run into pressure. I've never seen Taylor do that, to his credit, right? Like, I'm not turning this into a Heinicke Wentz thing. I'm just saying that he clearly is lacking confidence. And that is, you cannot lack confidence in that position. You can't hide in that position. And he made poor decision after poor decision. 16 of 28, 143 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks. He talked about appreciating the moment. I can't look behind me. Dude,
that 16 to 28 is bullshit.
Awful.
That 16 and 28 is a bullshit stat line.
About
it was
8
worse
to 10 of them were
than that
downs.
Nonsense. 16 to 28 is so graceful for what it is that he actually showed out there on that field. Look, you were 100% right. Every bit of my curiosity to see how it is that he would run with the offense and the defense working better than they were last time that he was fucking up was also based on a mentality of me kind of liking the guy. And also me kind of realizing that is maybe as you know that your job and your career are on the fucking line now and that you need to have learned something over the last few weeks of watching this other guy fucking play and you didn't learn shit. You didn't do anything that showed me that you matured at all, which makes me think that San Francisco game was more of an anomaly than anything fucking else. Now, once again, I give Scott Turner a lot of that bullshit because you changed the offense completely again to when Carson came in. So, yeah, you have also set him up to fucking fail. But there's nothing that Carson Wentz did today, not a goddamn thing, that shows me that he learned any motherfucking thing. Like, he didn't. When you see how fucking razzled you are when throwing a little fucking out screen pass to your goddamn running back, and you can't hit him. You can't hit him.
Dirt. And he looked at his hand after. He can't trust his own hand.
That was a fucking shit show. It was a shit show. Like, and that's the thing. Look, once again, I wanted to see Carson. I really wanted to see Carson. I expected that Scott Turner would have his head out of his fucking ass to do something better with Carson. He didn't. I assumed or thought that Carson would play better because he had a chance to learn and realize this is your last fucking shot. You didn't do it. You did nothing. And while I will take responsibility as a fan for being on the other side of that, being probably on the wrong side of the Heinicke Wentz thing, even though I don't think Heinicke is the answer fucking either, while I'll admit and take responsibility for my thoughts on it, Ron Rivera, Scott Turner, front office, you're the fucking assholes that made the trade. Y'all the ones that brought him in here. Y'all the ones that don't want to let go of the project or too scared to make a fucking decision on who you're going to go with. Mm-hmm. That's on y'all. The whole I'm going to talk to the locker room to see what it is that they're going to do. Fuck that. Made, it's your choice to fucking make, and you're not consistent with any of it. You know what I thought when I saw it? When Carson was standing in the game, it reminded me of the article that we had read that it was Dan Snyder's decision to go after Carson Wentz, right? Mm-hmm. And then Ron did everything in his fucking power to get mad at the media, to get mad at everyone. No, it's my choice. It's my fucking decision. All right, asshole. It's on you then. Because even if I were to give you the benefit of the doubt that this was like a final F you to Snyder, and Lord knows after fucking press conference where you don't even know that you can get eliminated from the playoffs, and then maybe it was a fuck you to Dan Snyder. But it doesn't make sense if you were the one taking responsibility for it, then I got to trust what you said.
No, I'm telling you, I don't think he's a good coach. I think he got an amazing quarterback in Cam Newton, and that's it. I'm sorry. I mean, I think he can be a good leader. You see people buy into him.
He's a good,
right? I'm not saying he's a bad dude. He's not a bad dude.
He's a good person. And the thing is that what this organization needed for so fucking long. We're not doing a good person podcast. We're doing a football. That's the thing. We've hit our plateau. I will give until the day I die. And if anybody wants to come from my head on this, feel fucking free. Because Ron was the guy we fucking needed to navigate the shit show that was the transition from Washington Redskins to the Washington football team to the Commanders and all that nonsense. Because you know what you needed? You need a good fucking human being back there to run the show. Mm-hmm. And he was that. Everything that he went through, from the cancer to losing his mother to everything that he had to do with COVID and motherfuckers on the team that want to get vaccinated, all that shit that he had to do.
Right.
He was a beacon of this is a good guy in a sea of a lot of not good guys. Will you hear the stories about Jay Gruden behind the scenes? Will you hear the stories about the infighting with the fucking Shanahans? You need a good guy, and he was that. And I thank him. I thank him for it. But we have reached the end of the road.
Yeah.
You've had every opportunity to make this your own. And like Chris Ballard of Indianapolis never wanted to make a decision on a quarterback. You bring in the next guy. Why? Because as long as I don't draft a quarterback, it's kind of safe, right? You have had now how many years to get this shit right, and you haven't fucking done it. You bring in another free agent quarterback. You trade for fucking somebody. You have them in there thinking that'll be the piece. That'll be the fucking piece. And guess what? It never fucking works out. And the rest of the team fucking collapses. And now this is the legacy of Ron Rivera. December comes, we fucking suck.
Yep.
You had every opportunity for weeks to lock this thing up, and you didn't do it. And it fucking put it on Heinicke, put it on the offensive line, put it on anything. There's one guy in charge.
Golden opportunities at that too. The Giants at home, right? And as well as the Giants played, we were in it, right? And yes, the referees, I get it.
We had opportunities in the fucking San Fran game. Like, we were there.
Yeah, and I was impressed with it. This fucking game, man. I mean, they had 3 points at halftime off of 2 turnovers, and everything we talked about in our preview episode was coming to life. This is an offense that can't move. This is a quarterback that has a ton of rust, and we gave them so many goddamn chances that eventually the rust wore off. Their first 3 drives in the second half, touchdown, 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 game over. Thanks so much for coming. Get home safely. One other thing I wanted to note about, and this is on Carson. I don't care what the scheme was, whatever. We didn't just lose. It wasn't just a quarterback change. We lost Terry fucking McLaurin. 2 catches, 25 yards, and not an ounce of emotion that you normally get when Taylor's there. There is just... Who was it? It was Mark Schlereth, who was the color commentator today, who had said that Terry McLaurin is the face of the franchise. Our wide receiver is the face of the franchise. And whenever you think of big wins this season, Terry's the one that's saying, I'm him. This is my fucking city when we're in Indy. And making the speech when Ron, is so proud of everybody and walks away because my mother would have been proud, etc. Terry steps in. All that stuff. I didn't see that player. I saw a guy wearing number 17 today, but there's just, I'm not blaming Terry. That made it sound like I was blaming Terry, but he's the guy that makes the team go.
Right.
And the focus went over to Carson, and I understand the media making it that way, and the quarterback's the sexy topic. It always is. But to not give him as many chances, he only got 5 targets today. To not get him in double-digit targets in a must-win game is inexcusable. I just cannot begin to express, I'm trying to be nice, but like how frustrated I am with how this went. None of us, even me, who had said I prefer Taylor for this team, I didn't even think it was going to be this bad with him. Like, no. I don't think any of us thought it was going to be this bad. It's on him, certainly, because he is his own person. And yes, it is a hard position to be in. A lot of people are doubting you. A lot of people don't like you, and it may feel baseless, and that is unfair. I agree. But that's the world, buddy, unfortunately, and it's on you to figure it out. It is on your offensive coordinator and head coach to help you, and they did not help you, son. They didn't, because Scott Turner consistently put you, Carson, in situations you weren't comfortable with. I could see it from my couch. Everybody could see it. So, Scott, honestly, get out. Ron, get out. Everybody, this is a clean house game. People have mentioned it. To me, it's abundantly clear. You clean it. Now, the problem is, and we'll get to stuff we're looking forward to, the problem is ownership hasn't changed yet. And JP Finley did an excellent job at NBC Sports Washington postgame. I don't know if you got to see it, KDot. 2-minute clip. Oh, cathartic. It's fabulous. I'll even link it in this video. But he said, you know what owners that are putting a team up for sale don't do? Buy out contracts. So it's not like they're about to, fire this regime.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So now what you have to look forward to is how quickly this ownership change happens, because the sooner it happens, the more likely you can get the change you're looking for. In this case, for me, it's the head coaching stuff. I still don't think it's going to happen. I'm talking about a coaching change, but it's just fuck. Go ahead, KDot. Say whatever you want.
So everybody get comfortable with Ron for one more year. Look, unless something crazy happens, because even if the team gets sold, it still has to go to the league to get ratified that they're okay with the ownership, and that still probably won't happen until the league meetings. So we're looking at March. Yep. So if March is at the earliest, you're looking at March. And if you're around that March time where you want to make a decision on a head coach, you've lost out to everyone that's a hot commodity as far as a coach. That's 2 months after the fucking Super Bowl. I don't think anybody thinks it's necessarily a good idea to do that as much as we want to clean house. Now, the thing is that what this will actually afford us to do with having Ron back is that next year is a full-blown evaluation year. It's no longer selling the bill of goods that we are one quarterback away from doing X, Y, and Z or making things happen in the playoffs. Now, the thing that sucks about that is that you have a team.
Could I interrupt for a sec? Just wanted to say that this was the make or break year. I believe those were also, he said you can put it all on me entering this season.
I'm just talking about,
but considering, and I wanted to just
100%. He does not deserve to be here.
He gets to be here.
He doesn't deserve to be here.
Unique ownership situation. Right. He will get to be here.
And in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to us as Washington fans, be grateful.
That is just right.
Because like, as much as we want to blame Ron, there's one guy responsible for this entire shit show and the way that we've come to as far as the franchise, and it's Dan. It's Yacht Bitch, right? And we're not. Don't fool yourselves. We were never going to win anything with Yacht Bitch at the helm.
No, we were going to win anything this year either. But you want to be able to have the playoff experience. It's more fun for us as fans. Of course, you got a defense to start and get. I mean, they're still young, but to start to get older. Windows start closing. You want to take has so much leverage when he's up for a contract.
Deron Payne, same thing. If I'm any of those guys, I'm not
great.
Especially knowing that next year you're not really going to be competing probably, because you don't know what's happening as far as quarterback, which gets us, we'll get more into that whole, the mechanisms of like next week.
Yeah.
But the thing with this is that, so look, while I wanted to see Carson Wentz play, there was like a 0.1% chance that he was ever going to get re-signed next year, unless we made some deep fucking Nick Foles type run in the playoffs, right?
There was a pretty high chance. Did you see that ESPN article from John Keim where they basically said they don't want to bring any other QBs in? They want to extend. I
get that, but and here's the thing: it might happen. If they might restructure the contract, you might get there. But and I don't think
this city would burn down.
Well, once again,
at this point,
I get it.
But I get what you're saying. We talked about ego.
Right.
I mean, so look, you can't rule it out.
I don't know. For anybody else, the main thing for me is I want new ownership to do this the right way. Like that to me is that is the biggest goal that I have, is new ownership doing it the right way.
Yeah.
I don't want to draft a quarterback. I don't want a quarterback that Ron gets to destroy in a year. Or you have a new coaching staff that might be a young offensive-minded guy who says, well, that's not the guy I want. I don't want that. Plus, I've told you guys, even though the college football playoffs were fucking amazing.
Amazing games.
I'm still not a huge Bryce Young guy. He's 120 pounds soaking wet. No, he's 190-something pounds. But he's
played well in his bowl game.
He played great.
But it's college.
And I'm a short. Right. I love short quarterbacks. I'm a fan of short quarterbacks. I'm a short guy myself. I will always ride in the paint for short quarterbacks. I just don't love Bryce Young. And CJ Stroud, while he had an amazing game, I am also not completely in the tank for him. I am much more get Caleb Williams next year, do whatever the fuck you got to do to make that happen. But the idea right now is that we have a full-fledged evaluation of everything. Now, we know, here's what it's not an evaluation of: the coaching staff, the front office. And the only guy that might see a future is Jason Wright, if I'm one that might believe a little more.
I like Jason Wright.
And also, I think that he might be responsible for leaking a lot of stuff to the league office, but that's just me.
Which is why I really like Jason Wright.
I think he might be one of those guys, because I know he wasn't handpicked by Snyder. So, we're not evaluating any of those guys, right? And we're not but what we do need to evaluate is quarterback, which goes into next week. If Sam Howell's not the quarterback next week,
he will be.
If he's not, then honestly, I don't give a fuck. Bring Jim Zorn back. I don't give a fuck. You can't roll into next year with Ron Rivera if he doesn't start Sam Howell. It would be a dereliction of duty if he did not start Sam Howell. But right now, it's the Sam Howell. What is Sam Howell? What is he? Like, I love our skills position guys. I don't know if I'm going to want to keep Curtis Samuel around for much longer, or I want Jahan Dotson. I want Terry McLaurin here. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at the tight ends. I'm like, I want to retool that entire thing. I'm looking at the offensive line. I'm saying I need to retool that whole thing. So what you're hoping for is you get a draft in which, look, there's a chance if a lot of things bounce our way where we're at the 15th pick right now, we could get the 10th. We could get as close to the 10th. If I got the list of things that have to happen. Steelers got to beat the Ravens on my TV right now. Mm-hmm. Patriots got to beat the Bills, the Saints over the Panthers, the Browns over the Steelers, the Jets over the Dolphins, and the Packers and the Lions got a tie. Now, if all that happens, we got a top 10 pick.
They got a tie?
Yeah. So we
tied, again, I guess. Yeah, okay.
10. We can move from 15 up. That's all I'm saying. 10 is the best we could do, but we can move up.
Okay. Well, hey, I really like who we got at 16 this year.
So I'm saying is that, like, if we're looking at an offseason where if they could draft the right guys that'll be around for a while, that aren't at those really sexy positions that you want to have a new offensive coordinator pick this guy, then all right, keep building. Ron, lay the foundation for the next guy. This is all you are doing now, sir. Make sure that you're the nicest, best coach you could possibly be to potentially get another job somewhere else, because it is over for you.
Yeah, this is the equivalent of a lame duck president. We have a lame duck coaching staff.
And maybe he realizes he doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, maybe. That would be great because he has been through a lot. And I can understand because he is quite combative when it comes to the media. He is quite he even talked about it today after, where he was saying he was frustrated with the question about the potential elimination. He said, yeah, he wasn't aware, but that's because he was focused on winning, to which I was reminded of Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems, who, whenever he gambled, only focused on winning, and things would keep getting worse and worse because he didn't think about losing. You got to, in this position as a head coach, account for all scenarios. That's your job. That is your job, to know the different scenarios.
So that actually ties into something we talked about last week. We were talking about what we would look for in a coach, right? And yes. I'll admit here on the pod, I'm still sick. I'm not 100%, but I felt really shitty that night, and I was combative for no fucking reason. Amit said he wanted a young offensive-minded coach. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why I was yelling about it. I felt like shit and I was being combative for no fucking reason. Angry black man. Totally fine, bro. Look. Where the fuck was I going? I apologize. Where were we saying? You said I was
talking about you have to know that you could potentially be eliminated. Yeah.
Got it. Ron Rivera, you don't run the defense. You don't run the offense. The fuck are you doing?
Great question.
Like that's my thing. Like I'm all about the head coach should be the guy that facilitates everything. It's not vastly important to me that the head coach be the offensive guru or the defensive guru, as much as he has the philosophy of being the proper manager for everything else to happen, right? And when he knows enough about football that if something's going wrong, he can go and talk to his coordinator and say, you need to work on this. Yeah. Do this. Mm-hmm. Now, Ron can talk about it every time after a game. We're missing opportunities. The quarterback's not playing this. That. Are you having the conversation with Scott Turner? Doesn't look like you're having the conversation with Scott Turner. When the defense is missing this, doing that, and they need to be more disciplined, are you having the conversation with Jack Del Rio? Nothing's happening. Doesn't seem like you're having the conversation with Jack Del Rio. So what the fuck are you doing?
But what's especially frustrating is I do follow some other head coaches and stuff like that, and I'm curious, and this isn't the old young thing here, but just what I'm talking about is I don't hear any other coach. Maybe there's one. I'd have to think about it, though. It takes time. That consistently throws other people under the bus. Like it is consistent.
But that's the thing. But he's not even purposely doing it. He's just out of the loop.
We expect more from the quarterback position, and he needs to do this and that and stuff like that. And you see the way Saleh is handling the whole Zach Wilson thing. You know, like the contrast is insane, right? Like it you could see, like Robert Saleh knows that Zach Wilson, for example, is going through a really hard time. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need anybody to tell him that. And he goes, look, he's just got to put his head down and keep working. He's not going, he's not doing well and we need a spark and stuff like that. Like we know, but like he is doing the right thing of we're going to see him again. Like he's trying to keep the confidence going. And a lot of times I feel like Ron is happy to throw. He's thrown both quarterbacks under the bus this season. Think about that. The quarterback comment when Carson Wentz was starting, and then Taylor later on where he's just going, he's making mistakes out there. Summarize or the word fuck anyway, but you know what I'm talking about. Paraphrasing. So that he has done this with people before. And it's that lack of accountability all over again. I'm sorry. I'm just spinning and
no, it's
now just because it's a frustrating.
But that's the thing is that what are you doing? Like, we talked about, you've been good for the organization as a whole, being the good guy. Is that all you're doing? Is that all are you the guy who's walking around at this point being the good guy? What are you doing to help the team move forward? Like, that's why I feel like we've reached our plateau. And the thing is and here's the thing that sucks. Well, maybe it doesn't maybe if it's not for Ron Rivera and the way the team and the way that he had to clean the team, maybe the news and the stuff that happens as far as Dan Snyder doesn't happen. Maybe that's all part of it, right? But
and I'm appreciative for all that. I'm appreciative for the 3 years, but like I think we're on the same page. This is it. Yeah,
we have the same way I feel about Heinicke's talent level, the same way I now feel about everything about Carson Wentz is the way that I feel right now about Ron Rivera. We have gotten the most we can possibly get out of this guy. You should be an ambassador for the game, working in the league office, working on some sort of fucking good initiative for something else. I applaud you for that position, but you should not be the head coach of a football team if it seems as though you're not doing anything. You're out of the loop.
Yep.
You're out of the loop. You feel so passive in everything you're doing. It feels like there's no cohesiveness with this team. It feels like the players are the ones that try to bring the cohesion between things. It's not anything the coaching staff.
Yeah, the leadership from the players is actually unbelievable.
But here's the thing. It's like every team has their leaders, right?
Yeah, but ours have to put up with so much more.
But the thing is, like, you have coaches that work with those guys and they have relationship with those guys. They might not even like each other, but you can see, all right, this is how those guys communicate and work and make things happen on the field, right? Like even the guys that are the most ornery in the league. Aaron Rodgers barely gets along with fucking anybody. Him and Matt LaFleur have a very toxic relationship. I question a lot of Matt LaFleur's abilities, right? And I question a lot of Aaron Rodgers' ability to just be a good person with other people. But you realize they're talking. You know they're talking. You know that there's something happening football related between those two gentlemen. You know it's happening, right? Bill Belichick and Tom Brady did not fucking get along. But you know what they did? They had enough of respect for each other to make shit work. And that's what comes down to.
They're ultimately professional. Yeah.
You got to be a professional. You got to be able to communicate to get shit done. And it feels as though every time you hear Ron Rivera open his mouth, it sounds like he hasn't talked to Scott. He hasn't talked to Jack. He's not talking to the players. He's out of the loop.
Yeah. You remember, like, even last season, I think it was last season or maybe it was the season before, where we would be down 10. It's the 2-minute warning and there are 3 timeouts and he wouldn't use any of them. Do you remember that? Where he would just be like, there's just a low probability of anything happening there. And it's like, dude, I mean, this is our leader. This is our head coach.
The only thing he does is be the riverboat Ron.
Yeah.
We're going to go for the 4th down. And here's the thing. I think he makes that decision.
And a fucking pitch on 4th and 1. We didn't even touch on that. Just one more thing for Scott. See, there's so many fucking things about this game. Like,
let loose, Amit.
Oh my God. Okay. So we're 4th and 1. We got Schlereth talking about analytics and it doesn't ever block and stuff like that. And that's all good and fine. The idea that we have Brian Robinson, who ends up with 24 carries for 87 yards, but he's still falling forward, as he always does, as he's always done this season. I'm banging the table so you see this thing vibrate. It is mind-numbing to me that we don't just run a halfback dive. Why can't we do that? Or quarterback sneak as anything just down the middle. Why are we suddenly going laterally on 4th and 1? It is so dumb. With our offensive line, not particularly athletic, unfortunately. I don't know if you've been watching the whole goddamn season. You think they can pull off a pitch in that situation? We just found so many ways to derail the momentum.
I would say I saw this before we started the pod as far as the offensive line. I've talked about how I have not been a fan of Charles Leno's play.
Yeah.
anyone in the DMs of Jen Leno or Charles Leno threatening her life
don't
or
be
talking
doing
about,
that
you are a
Come on,
fucking
guys.
piece of shit. You are a piece of shit. There's no getting around it. You're a fucking piece of shit. Like, there's no room for that whatsoever. You can be critical of their play. There's no reason to be involved in that way of anybody in that level. That's
Completely agree.
fucked up shit.
Yeah. Whenever, and so this is very important for all fans. Look, we're all fans. We're all deeply passionate. We're cursing out our coaching staff right now and players, stuff like that. But we keep it there, right? You don't take it to personal stuff. Okay. Charles Leno is out there. Maybe he has a bad game. Let's say he's still trying his fucking best. He is still putting in all that work to try and be the best left tackle for you, for this team, for this city. So fuck off with all that stuff if you're doing that. Seriously.
Especially, dude, it's been so good to the fucking community. Like, kiss my ass with that shit. Like, what the
person of the year, dude. Like, yeah. So I just want to not only echo your sentiments, but double down on them. Like, do not get into personal attacks and do not do anything crazy like that. Let it go. Okay. Ultimately, this is just a game. We care a lot about it. All of us.
And that's the thing that I think more than anything that we want to address here on the pod is that the talent level's not up to snuff. I think we can all see that in certain aspects of this team.
Yeah.
There are some areas where the talent's off the fucking charts and not being utilized correctly. But the bottom line is no one on the team is being properly utilized. And that's the thing that we have to look at when it comes to the coaching staff, which they still don't need to get threatened on be threatened on their life or have any fucking personal attacks as much as needed to say, hey, the product on the field's not fucking working. And heads need to roll because you're not doing a good enough job. And we as fans pour money, our heart, our soul, our time into this.
Yeah.
And we want people to be held accountable. And that's it. That's the most you need to go with the shit. That's it. At the end of the day, all these guys have families. They have fucking lives. They're human beings. And get it, we are all investors in this thing. But you don't get to go personal on that level with these people. It's fucked up shit. It's real fucked up shit.
Well said. And I completely agree. And actually, Jen Leno on Twitter has been saying a bunch like, hey, like, please don't do this. Shouldn't have to say that. It's absurd. Let's move on. Should we just go to the comment mailbag and we can talk a little bit more after the pod about the future and stuff? Or did you have anything?
Yeah,
that
works. That works. Yeah, because it's basically looking towards next week and what's happening.
Exactly. We'll end up talking about that exactly on after the pod. Okay. So comment mailbag, the one comment, we had two, and I don't know again if YouTube ended up deleting it, blood clot, or if you did, but just note we saw it briefly, but yeah, anyway. But we do have one from Johnny Otto. Shout out Johnny. Make no mistake, Dallas will play full speed to knock us out of the hunt for the playoffs and run up the score. Great news for us. Dallas will be playing full speed. The Eagles did lose, and even better news for us, we might get the 10th overall pick because we're already out. So we appreciate the comment.
Nothing to worry about there.
Yeah, unfortunately, nothing to worry about there. But at the time you wrote it, because this was before the game, of course, a perfectly valid and reasonable comment that, yeah, maybe Dallas does go hard because of the rivalry and because they want to stay sharp and all that stuff. It's entirely possible. Can't rule that out, KDot.
Jonathan Allen shouldn't be playing. It's a bunch of other guys. Chase Young shut him down. And Sam Howell time. Like, that's the thing is, like, if y'all want to beat Dallas to play spoiler in some sort of realm, cool. I get it from a division rivalry standpoint. But if you're not feeling 100%, you're not fully healthy, you ain't playing.
Simple as that. No need to put your body on the line. Not this week. Anyway, so this is District Divider, DC Sports Podcast, more specifically a Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you couldn't have possibly liked today's episode. It was nothing but depression and anger. This episode, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and comment. And we really appreciate you guys. And we're going to go after the pod, begin talking about next week. And that starts now.
Let me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
You ever vouch for somebody, like on a job or something? You ever go wrong?
It's happened. Yeah, of course.
That's how I feel about that's how I feel about this Carson Wentz thing.
Let it out.
Here's the thing. It's like I tried every time the Carson Wentz Taylor Heinicke thing came up. I prefaced my love for Heinicke, right? Then after I preface my love for Heinicke, it'd be more of trying to temper expectation for Carson, but then also realizing if Carson plays up to speed, I'm excited about it because he's got an arm. And then that excitement peels through, and it got me co-signing Carson fucking Wentz. And it feels like the same way I felt when I remember my cousin, who was an electrician, still is an electrician. I'm going to throw his ass on the bus. Who gives a fuck? Hey, downtown, I used to run a bookstore, small independent bookstore downtown. We were moving locations. And I had a big electrical job. I'm talking like $15,000 electric job.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, I know somebody that could take care of this for us. Like, really? Bring him on down. He does the tour. He does all that kind of shit. And I'm like, yeah, he's going to do a great job, right? Morning of, the move is happening. I'm at the location with the trucks trying to make shit happen. I get a phone call. Hey, Kadeen, your cousin was supposed to be here 2 hours ago. Where is he at? Ain't answering his phone, ain't answering text messages, left me out in the fucking cold. Carson Wentz, I don't hate you. I don't. I like you and I've defended you quite a bit. I think you're a good guy.
Yeah.
You are broken. And I vouch for you. And it hurts, buddy. It fucking hurts. Now, I get it. They set you up to fucking fail, but you did nothing. Here's what Taylor Heinicke does. Even when he's set up to fail, he does the best of the situation. He doesn't try he's just not that talented. It's just there's a limit.
Yeah.
Here's what you are, Carson. You're fucking talented, and you're not doing anything with it. It's extremely aggravating, sir.
And
Extremely
aggravating. I
aggravating.
think that's where some of the dislike comes from. When people genuinely dislike him is when you see. Now it's different, and I'm going to say that immediately. But when you look at Ben Simmons in the NBA, I will tell you that I genuinely dislike Ben Simmons because when he was with the Philadelphia 76ers, we talked about this actually back when we had Matt LC Spencer.
Yep.
I thought that he genuinely lacked effort and didn't care. And he had all this talent and he was wasting it. Yep. That's not the case with Carson. I don't think he's not working. So I want to make that very clear, right? So that there is a big difference there. But when you see that much talent not performing, it can be extremely aggravating, as you're mentioning.
He needs a psychologist or
badly.
a psychiatrist.
And that's sort of the thing. Like, is confidence is such a magical and finicky thing. It comes and goes. Like, no one can truly explain it, but it's there. It's similar to momentum in sports. And right now, he clearly doesn't have it. You can have the most arm talent in the world, and you can be incredibly fast as well. You can do all these things, but if you don't think you can do it, and that was very clear today, if you don't think you can do it, you won't. I remember hearing this from a buddy of mine. If you think you can, you might. If you think you can't, you're right.
100%.
And that's what we saw. And actually, it perfectly describes the two quarterbacks because Heinicke thinks he can. He has irrational confidence.
Yes.
And Wentz clearly has no confidence. The moment something goes wrong, right? That's when you can see his world spiraling, right? He can have a great game, but the moment something goes wrong and he senses, I may have disappointed the fans, or I may have disappointed my coaches, I may have disappointed others, he is now playing a totally different game, and it's not football anymore.
Which is why I'm so upset with the coaching staff. Because what I saw in that San Francisco game, where you could see he was building something, and it looked like he might not be the most confident guy out there, but he's completing passes, and he's not overthinking, and that's all you got to do. Get him to not overthink, right? Set him up in a position not to fucking overthink, and they didn't do any of that this week.
And let's speculate on the mindset, and this is purely speculation. This is me speculating. I'm Carson. I'm coming into this game. It's my first game in a really long time. I'm excited. I can finally go out there and do what I love. I do love this game, right? I love playing football. I just want to get in a rhythm. Plain and simple. If I see someone open, throw it. If he's not there, that's fine. I'll do something. But just I'm excited. Let's be real, this decision was made almost immediately after the game. I know it wasn't announced until Wednesday, but we even titled our episode on Monday, Carson Wentz starting QB. We knew. Everybody knew. Mm-hmm. Ref the District knew. All the other podcasts knew. Everybody knew. when expectations hit, and I'd sort of made this point with Taylor, where I wasn't sure how it was going to look, and he did underperform in the Giants game. But when expectations hit for Carson, and there was all this week, and I'll admit it, I was getting excited by the arm talent. How could you not? You see some of the throws he makes. It is exciting, of course. I actually felt a bit sorry just because I was really hoping that he had taken that next step. But that mental fragility, so long as it exists, he cannot be a starter in this league.
That's what's he's not a bad guy. And that's the thing is that like he's not a bad dude. He's getting I know I come to his defense because I feel like he gets attacked. But at the end of the day,
yeah, go ahead.
But at the end of the day, he's not executing. And you don't deserve to have the job if you're not.
No, the only thing he's executing is his own career right now.
Right.
I mean, like, it's brutal.
And Ron and Scott, man, I look at you guys and say, y'all did this boy dirty.
You're in the building every day, man.
Y'all did this man dirty, and it's fucked up. And when I'm going to be so aggravated looking at the All-22, and I know I'm going to be aggravated looking at the All-22, because even on the brief rewatch that I was doing on YouTube TV, constantly hitting 10 seconds to try to get each play in, and just looking at the shotgun, looking at the non-play action, it was so fucking aggravating. All right, I'm done with the Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke thing. I will admit my curiosity, like the cat, fucking killed it. It was fucked up. It didn't. No, you guys are right. He wasn't ready for prime time at all. At all. It was broken. It was done.
It's one of those things where I think we both got caught in vacuums, right? Like,
that's what happens in this fan base.
You have to be on one side or the other all of a sudden through conversation, right? So
because we don't do it the right way.
Right. I would agree. I would agree with that. But anyway, the one throw in particular, besides the Robinson and the dirt and the 3 interceptions, my God, what a game for him, was the and even Schlereth and Co were talking about it. He had Jahan wide open when he stepped up in a completely free pocket at that point, and he missed him. It skipped off the ground. It's like
Cam Sims open in the end zone basically for a walking touchdown, and he throws in the double coverage.
And
when the safety
immediately goes, yeah, he knew. That's the thing, man. The guy, everyone needs confidence. Everybody on this planet. I hope everyone gets the confidence that they feel they need to be able to execute the things they want to execute in life. I do. But you do need to figure it out, and you need to put yourself in the right situation. That's why when I talked about QB last week, now we're getting outside of Wentz and Heinicke. When I was talking about QB last week, it was, well, what's the supporting cast? And it's not just the people on the field. It's those off it. And so that's where I really admire, and we both agree with our admiration of McVay, is because I think he instills a confidence, man, in that position for people, right?
Because he knows his shit.
He knows his shit. I think Mike McDaniel, now it's going south because Tua's constantly concussed at this point. Teddy Bridgewater leaves the game.
Because Tua suffers from the same thing that Carson does. There's a lack of confidence from Tua. And the thing is that with Tua is that when Brandon Staley, I keep going back to that game. If you want to watch the All-22 or something,
but I would also say, yeah. And so I think credit to Staley, for figuring that out. But I think the Green Bay game, I think there is a pretty strong case that he was concussed.
Oh, no, 100%.
When he threw those 3 interceptions.
Oh,
That's what I mean. Because he had that game won.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, yeah. No disagreeing on that. Yeah.
Right.
There's definitely because here's the thing that Green Bay wasn't doing, which is why I was so surprised in that game, is what I had talked about on this pod, I think now 2 or 3 times, about the Staley versus McDaniels game. What was weird to me was in the first half of that game, Green Bay's not doing it.
No, not
Waddle
at all.
was running streaks. So I was like, So I was like, are they setting them up? So then in the second half, I was like, because I didn't watch the All-22 of it. I was like, Green Bay just decided they were going to set 2 up, and they started doing it. And then when I saw some of the replays, because I didn't watch the All-22 of it, I'm like, oh, no, they didn't. Like, he was open. Tua was just not doing anything.
Did you hear the Jair Alexander post-game interview after that? Oh, my gosh. It was so funny. Even he said it. He's really overthrowing this.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But that's the thing is, like, good coaching can mask a lot. And that's the thing in it. My thought was always look, I still stand firm that if it was up to Frank Reich, Carson Wentz starts at quarterback this year for Indianapolis. I don't think he gets rid of him, right?
Yeah.
And we
look
can
at his
see
numbers. Yeah, 27.
and we see what
7.
and the locker room loved him. You see where Indianapolis ended up with Jeff Saturday and everything. It's a fucking clusterfuck.
Yeah,
it wasn't just the quarterback.
Another poorly run organization.
Right. It's just a poorly run. They got a hot-headed fucking ownership, right?
Yep.
But what Frank did was that even when Carson was fucking up, and look, I told you guys I watched the replays of those games as far as Jacksonville, and while I don't think Carson was fully responsible for a lot of the shit back then, Carson absolutely did a lot of poor fucking things in Indianapolis. You look at the amount of interceptions that were dropped in Indianapolis, right? But a good coach will do everything they can do to do right by their guys, to instill as much confidence as they can in their guys, and to get the guys coming in and week out and at least playing to a certain level to mask some of the deficiencies.
Yeah.
And the coaching staff here in Washington across every position leaves you to fend for yourself.
I wouldn't even say that. Yeah. So actually I would say that. And what I would say is instead of masking the deficiency, they highlight it.
They highlight them. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. The exact opposite. And we were talking about it, I think it was in a group chat, a literal grapefruit would be a better coach right now than Ron. And that's how I feel. My dog Barkley's over here. He's just sleeping. Doing nothing seems to be doing something better than what's currently going on, because these guys, it's utter incompetence. I'm referring to the on-field stuff. And I guess the off-field, like, we can get eliminated. Like, it is incompetence at this point, and we have plateaued. And I'm glad we're on the same page there. And hopefully come next year, because I agree, given this is a fairly unique situation with ownership, given that situation, Ron is going to be here, barring something crazy. Scott's going to be here because Ron's loyal, and we're going to have another year of this. You just need to buckle up for that. Let's talk.
Kind of excited about that, though.
Are you?
Strangely, yes.
Okay, I'm not.
I can explain. Okay. I can explain myself.
Go ahead.
So next week we should start seeing Sam Howell.
Absolutely, and actually, Jacina Anderson had a tweet that said, if we are eliminated, and there was a low probability of it, but here we are, that there would be strong consideration to start Sam Howell. I'm now wondering about the validity of the tweet, because if we are eliminated, implies that maybe he did know. And I don't know who she talked to in that case, but I think Sam has to start. Yeah. Give the kid a chance. Honestly, that's what the fans want to see anyway. Let the kid do something. Again, he also had a high ceiling. Or
maybe he thought there'd be some games next week that decided it. I don't understand what the
thought probably thought we had 4 regular season games left.
I don't know. There's still the chance that he was being sarcastic, even though I don't buy it.
Dude, for the amount of time he took to pause,
I don't buy it. And Grant, nice job, Grant Paulson on the question.
Excellent question.
Solid job, solid execution of the way you act with. Look, yeah, I was even Julie Donaldson's my girl. I loved you, or my woman. I love her. I love her to death. Them softball fucking questions to Ron after the game, boy, that annoyed the shit out of me. It made me start feeling like I was looking at Larry Michael. Look, it's just toxic. The Washington is just toxic. You get the stank on you, and that's what I want the stank to go away.
Yeah. You have said that so many times. Yeah.
So the thing is why am I excited? Sam Howell gets to start probably next week against Dallas, and that's a hell of a pass rush, right? Now, I am of the idea that you don't start rookie quarterbacks, but I'm also
by the way, New England started Mac Jones as a rookie.
No, they didn't have a choice, because here's the thing. No, but that was the thing is the first red flag on Mac Jones, and this is why Bill Belichick doesn't like his ass. He was afraid of Cam Newton over his shoulder,
which is why they got rid of Cam.
So right. Mac was so fragile in his psyche that and what the coaching staff do, they were like, look, Mac's got upside, Cam doesn't. We got to make the call. Let's make the fucking call. It's a coaching staff making the
playoffs.
Here's a coaching staff that knows what they're doing, right? They made the right decision for the situation, the best of what they had. Probably the wrong decision was drafting Mac Jones in the fucking first place, because he's a little bitch.
Psychologically, he's a child. Yeah.
And the amount of dirty plays too. He's a little kid.
Yeah.
So the thing with us is that you start, while I'm of the idea that you start rookie quarterbacks, when you talk about one game
at the end of the season,
end of the season, I don't give a fuck what they do. They can sack that motherfucker 10 times. If one game rattles your career, you were never meant to be in the NFL, sir. So,
I think he'll be fine.
And
I'm not expecting amazing.
Here's what's scary. Here's the thing that's the scariest part about it. You know how I was saying Carson Wentz is perfect for the offense?
Yeah.
Which in all honesty, here's the caveat I should have said to that. If Carson's playing at the ability that he can do and with confidence, he's perfect for the system.
Oh, yeah. If you give him every single checkbox.
If you give him all the other checklists, he's perfect for the system.
Talent-wise, he's there.
He's talent-wise, he's there, right. Sam Howell is actually perfect for
Here we go.
So the reason I say that is that, like, you can see it in preseason with Sam, right? Is that if shit goes wrong, even today, when you saw Carson had opportunities, clear daylight to run, and he didn't do it.
Yeah,
Howell fucking go.
Yeah.
Howell's not thinking about it. I'm gone. And the thing is that when I look at Sam Howell, I see Scott Turner not knowing what to do with the offense. I see Scott Turner, for some reason, wanting to have two different offenses for Taylor and one for Carson. But then what's working with one won't work with the other, but he's not even willing to give it a shot, which is just weird. My hope, and once again, there's no real hope for this, but the hope would be what Scott does is doesn't dummy down the offense. What Scott does what Kyle Shanahan did with Brock Purdy, which is that I'm asking Jimmy G to do what Kyle Shanahan was doing was asking Jimmy G to do X, Y, and Z within the offense, which is not Jimmy G's strong suit. Jimmy G is not his strong suit is not throwing down the field. He said, fuck it, we're doing it anyway because we're limited in what we're doing on offense. And Jimmy, I trust you to make the right decision when you need to make them, even if your arm's not good. We got enough talent. Just fucking throw it, motherfucker. Yeah. Just do it.
Yeah.
And it was working the play action, doing all that. Then they had McCaffrey to the fucking mix. And it's like, all right, we're going to do this. Then when Garoppolo gets hurt, they didn't say, let's dummy down the offense. He said, Purdy's got a better arm than Jimmy. What am I going to? I'm doubling the fuck down. And that's what Kyle did. He said, fuck it. Give me more of the shit. More play action. More deep throws. Just throw it at him. And what did Brock do? Brock didn't say, this is too much for me. Brock said, bring it on, bitch. Let's go.
Yeah.
I'm hoping Sam's got some of that dog in him.
I think he does. I personally think he does. And also, it needs to be noted, Sam Howell, his last season at UNC, played behind a dog shit offensive line. So he's already kind of used to these conditions, unfortunately. So we'll see how he does. In preseason, he was entertaining. I don't think he lit the world on fire.
No.
He was entertaining, and nor was there an expectation for him to.
But he's got an arm.
He does. And so there is reason for excitement. Enjoy next week. Just enjoy. The score doesn't matter. You feel free to put on your QB evaluation hat, because you could have a good time for 60 minutes or 3 hours, with commercials and stuff, and just enjoy the Sam Howell experience, because that's what we should get. We're going to see.
They might throw fucking Wentz back out there, Heinicke, for no fucking reason.
Right.
But
they will do nothing but shatter. Anyway, go ahead.
But the part of me that's most excited about, and this is where I think we all need to be somewhat grateful about the situation at hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
The prime objective for us as Washington fans needs to be Dan's gone.
Yes.
Everyone needs to make sure that we wrap our head around that. That is the thing. More than a playoff berth this year, more than anything, it's Dan going. Okay?
Correct.
Now that's happening. Now, when you're looking at what is the pathway to be clean of the Dan Snyder era to give us a new era, right?
Mm-hmm.
We missed the playoffs. There's no bullshit, false sense of hope, or this was a successful season. We're one quarterback away. If Ron comes in next year talking about we need to make the trade for Derek Carr, I think somebody threatens to throw him on his ass, right?
Yeah.
You're not doing that. You're not doing that, right? You're not one quarterback away going into next year, right?
Yeah.
But what it does you to do is it puts you in a position where if you roll with Sam Howell, or even we said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, could we see a scenario in which Taylor Heinicke start for the team next season?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. You re-sign Taylor. And what you do is you try to make it through next year. Sorry.
You're fine.
Building up fundamental pieces.
Mm-hmm.
More guys for the offensive line, more depth for the offensive line, more depth here. You make draft picks on the unsexy positions that are going to be here for a while, right? The front office should be twisting as soon as when you got to understand, ownership will change hands hopefully by March. And what ownership will do is they'll come down and they're going to talk to Ron. They're going to talk to the front office, and they're going to tell them, you're not doing this, you're not doing this, you're not doing that. We're building here. Now, you guys need to show us what you're capable of from a coaching standpoint. And that's your year of seeing what stays and what goes. Correct. The worst case scenario, if we were to make the playoffs or miss out and draft a guy this year, then you have the situation where when Ron got hired, you had a Dwayne Haskins who was drafted by the previous regime. And now we got to give that another year to give that a fair shake and to do this and do that. Now we got to wait to see what this is, wait to see what that is. Next year is your last year of having to deal with any of the ramifications of the Snyder era.
Yeah.
Look at it as our farewell swan
There's
song.
Your optimism. Right. Yeah.
In 2024, sky's the fucking limit, baby. Sky's the limit. Now, the only thing you got to hope to do, the only negativity with it is some of these guys on this team that are worth it might not want to stick around for that year.
Yeah. And you have to be mentally prepared that is a possibility. Right. And to those players, and I mean, emotionally, it's a bit raw right now, but like I was watching the game with Rich where your helmet at today. And literally at one point I was like, I just want Terry to be happy. I'd love to see him with the awesome QB. But like, oh yeah, because we just resigned. It was a 3-year deal. But you know, it won't be this year.
Right.
So he'll be with us next season, obviously. But I'm just saying, come 2024.
Yeah.
2 years, like who knows?
But seeing that if Daron Payne walks, be ready for that and understand it, and don't be upset. We can be upset with the way the season ended, but at the end of the day, the grand scheme of things, Snyder's going.
You're not upset with Payne. You're upset with the front office, and like you're saying, you're just waiting for the. You're right now in the middle of a storm.
Yep. You're
waiting for it to pass. You know you'll be there on the other side of it.
Being in this era, I am 33 years old. About to be 30. God damn, about to be 34. About to be 34 in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I've seen a light at the end of the tunnel with this franchise, it's been a freight train.
Mm-hmm.
I actually see daylight.
There you go. See, that's exciting. That is really, really exciting.
And that's why when people wonder why I say I've been so medium on the season, I've been lukewarm on this team. I thought we were just above mediocre for the most part this season. The main thing that got us, I had it as a 10-7. And the only reason I had us at 10-7 was the very favorable schedule that we had, which we did not through a bunch of those easy teams in the middle of the section outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I still thought there was a lot of holes in this team. We still thought that there was a lot that needs to get done with this team. But once the movement started happening on Snyder, and you remember every week I come in here.
That was incredible.
Every week I came in here and you said, is there X to worry about with Snyder? Is this happening? And I said, it's happening, Amit. I have no doubts about it, Amit. It's what's happening. Has brought a calm and a coolness over me. That doesn't, because look at it, man. Every time we've ever been excited about this team, think about it. Think about the best memories you have with this team, right? Think about the 05 run.
Okay.
Think about the 07 run outside of Sean Taylor's death.
Recipes. Mm-hmm.
Think about the 20 run with Taylor Heinicke against Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck have we gotten from any of that? Do we have a Super Bowl? Do we got an NFC championship?
It's a good point.
We ain't got shit. Like, you got other teams that can look back at the memories that they have and it ends with something fucking happening.
Yeah.
Even a Super Bowl. I'd take a fucking Super Bowl loss. We haven't sniffed one.
I'd take an NFC championship loss. We haven't been to an NFC championship game in 30 years. I mean, like, yeah.
What's the closest we've been, man? So, like, the divisional playoff game, against Seattle that year, that's the most and then that ended in crushing fashion with the fucking injury.
So that was wild card, but yeah, you had that feeling because we were hot.
All right,
and RG3 was playing out of his world. Like,
we have never everything that we can look for, and they're good memories. Good guys that came and sacrificed their bodies for this organization.
Dog, we had two rookie QBs win games that year. Kirk Cousins was a rookie too, and he had to play in relief. Like, how good that was a shit
show itself. Well, that was a shit show between Dan Snyder and fucking Shanahan. Shanahan always wanted Cousins, and then they made the trade And at the end of the day,
and to their credit, they still had an unbelievable year and system with RG3.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shanahan's ego and Dan Snyder's ego.
Yeah, there was no reason to draft 2 QBs when you traded all that.
It's fucking stupid. Yeah. But that's the thing. Every time that we've had a moment of feeling, oh shit, we're having fun, nothing happens.
Yeah.
So we might love these guys to come through. We might appreciate their efforts. We might have great memories. But let's start making these memories fucking count.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I appreciate that level of optimism as well. And yeah, no, it's important because it is easy to get caught up in the emotion of today, right? We were hoping to make the playoffs. We were hoping to even make a run depending on how well Carson Wentz was playing. But it is important to go, okay, that's happened. Take your time to process it and then go, hey, there is something to look forward to. And that is exciting. That is exciting.
Washington Prime!
The Washington Primes are on their way. We will see you guys for the Dallas Cowboys preview. I don't even know how long that's going to be. I might just talk about Sam Howell the whole time if he's not the starter. Yep. All right. Take it easy, guys.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.